out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.
And on the 7th day, God said, let's play 2. Well, that's normally attributed to Mr. Cub Ernie Banks. On day 1, God created the heaven and the earth. On day 2, he created the sky and the atmosphere, so we had nice fresh air to breathe. On 3rd day, he created the land, including the ballparks. On the 4th day, created the sun, the stars, and the moon. And he had an ulterior motive for the moon because back in those days it shined so brightly you could play night games. And then on the 5th day, he created the birds, the fish, and everything else that flies. And then on the 6th day, he created all the animals, which included the cubs, the tigers, the orioles, blue jays, cardinals, diamondbacks, marlins, and the devil rays. And then he said on the 7th day, the sun is out, let's play 2. So it wasn't Ernie, it was God. The game started between the angels and the devil rays. And that's how it all began. So let's take a little road trip right now and see where it all started. Hoboken, New Jersey. A whole lot different than when I was here last, which was about 5 years ago. Now we're heading to Washington Street and 11th Street. And that's actually the designated area, the birthplace of baseball. The park no longer exists. It was called Elysian Fields. And the property was probably too valuable, so they built on it. Just like everything else in this city, which has been gentrified in the past 30 years or so. Used to be a blue-collar town, but not much of that around. And the rents went from $500 a month to over $2,000 a month for the same apartment. You gotta be so careful driving around here. We'd be really lucky to find a parking space, but that's kind of doubtful. Seems like you only can double park and run in and run out. The story goes that the people from Manhattan, where there wasn't any land available to play ball on, came to Hoboken and to Elysian Fields. Actual players were cricket players who used the game of rounders, which was a British game, as the basis for their new game called baseball. 2 words. We're getting close. Tell me how you park here with these cars the way they are. I couldn't live this way. Once you park your car, you never want to leave it. You never want to take it out anywhere, because you never get your parking space back. There's the Elysian Cafe. So some of the landmarks still have their connection to the old Elysian fields. And there it is, the home plate. The landmark, the birthplace of baseball. Here's a segment we like to call Characters of the Game. And let's start off with the old professor, Mr. Casey Stengel.
I was asking you, sir, why it is that baseball wants this bill passed.
I would say I wouldn't know, but I would say the reason why they'd want it passed is to keep baseball going as the highest baseball sport that has gone into baseball, and from the baseball angle. I'm not going to speak of any other sport. I'm not in here to argue about other sports. I'm in the baseball business. It's been run cleaner than any baseball business that was ever put out in the 100 years at the present time.
Casey is another one of the great characters of the game whose history was so deep. I mean, because I love the story of Mickey Mantle, who came up to the Yankees in 51. Stengel was there through 60, so he managed Mantle in his early and then prime years. And Mantle couldn't believe that Casey Stengel had played in Yankee Stadium. In fact, he played with the Giants on the three teams that back-to-back played the Yankees. And the third one in 1923, when the Yankees finally won, was the first one in the new Yankee Stadium. And so when Casey was telling Mickey Mantle little things about the outfield, because this was the original Yankee Stadium in the 50s, Mantle said, "You played here?" He couldn't believe that. The other story about Casey as a manager that I love, and Billy Martin picked it up, was that Stengel said the secret to good managing is keeping the five players who don't like you away from the five who haven't made up their mind. And, that's really, in some ways, now when they're talking about rosters where players playing all over the place and not playing them much, they're sort of trying to, I think, avoid that. But in Casey's day, when there were, his prime was, as I mentioned before, 16 teams, 8 in each league, and you knew each other very well. So, you had to know who to stroke and who to get on. And Casey was really a master about that. And like Lasorda, by the way, he was a great ambassador to the game. Casey didn't have any hobbies other than baseball. And that's what made him such a great storyteller, and the same with Lasorda. And I hope we keep a focus on that as we move forward, because nowadays, as we know for obvious political reasons, that with the internet and stuff, everyone has an opinion, and truth or error, or it doesn't matter. It's nice to look back at the careers of people like Casey and Lasorda and Seaver, who came of age at a time when there were heroes and there were people who had the standing to do the things they did and tell the stories they did.
This, my friends, is a Dodger dog. Pretty nice looking hot dog, don't you think? We had these flown in from Los Angeles because we have somewhat of unlimited budget here at the Ballgame. They came just in time because we are sad to announce the passing of former Dodger manager and Hall of Famer Tommy Lasorda. He said one time, "When we lose, I eat. When we win, I eat." Tommy, this one's for you. Too bad they're on the West Coast.
Tommy Lasorda was our guest speaker at our Scouts dinner a number of years ago. And I've been running the dinner for 38 years, and he was probably the best guest speaker that we ever had. Normally, we would get 280 people on the average come to our dinner. That year we had 325. It was the biggest dinner we ever had. People just wanted to see him. And that particular evening, to get him to come in, John Koziak was a scout with the Dodgers. And he said when he'd go to an organization meeting, he would ask Tommy if he'd be willing to come in. So he spoke to Tommy, and he happened to tell him that one of our awards that are named after Steve Lembo, a scout, longtime scout with the Dodgers. Steve was Tommy's catcher in AAA for the Montreal club in the Dodger organization. So Tommy willingly said that he would come. And what we did was, Alan Maher was then the president. He volunteered and gave up his frequent flyer points to fly Tommy in. And Tommy flew in, and he arranged for a book signing in Manhattan that Friday afternoon. So we didn't have to pay for any expenses. The people that paid for him to come in for the book signing took care of that. We supplied a driver. He came out, and he was just great. I mean, he signed all autographs. He gave the greatest speech you'd ever want. He had everybody rolling in the aisles, as you were there and you witnessed that. And at the end of the evening, I was packing up on the dais to leave, and everybody in the room pretty much had lined up to the dais to get his autograph. And I saw Tommy. It looked to me like he was leaving. He was walking out. So I stopped what I was doing. I ran over to thank him. He said, "No, I'm not leaving. I'm just going to the restroom. You tell everybody to stay right there. I will sign every autograph for anybody that wants it."
We've had some tremendous announcers, not only in the ballpark, but on TV and also on radio. And hopefully in the near future, we'll explore some of them. And our kudos and congratulations to Boog, John Shambi, who is now taking over for Len Casper as the TV play-by-play man for the Chicago Cubs. Way to go, Boog. Now, Bob Shepard, the announcer in the ballpark for the New York Yankees, was one of a kind, that's for sure. And people used to call him the voice of God.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Yankee Stadium.
You know, it's wonderful. I mean, he is a fixture at Yankee Stadium, and, you know, you think back to 50 years ago and all the great Yankee players that were playing at that time. He has some great memories in that mind, and that voice is, his voice is still there.
Here are the lineups. Leading off, the shortstop, number 10, Phil Rizzuto, number 10.
Now batting, number 2, Derek Jeter.
When you hear the voice, pitching for the Yankees, Tommy John. You know, it's just, you keep wanting to look around up there.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Yankee Stadium. I got goosebumps.
Batting second, the catcher, number 15, Thurman Munson, number 15. Playing right field, number 7, Mickey Mantle, number 7. The center fielder, number 5, Joe DiMaggio, number 5.
He's been there for as long as that I have been, even you know, longer, obviously. But it's one of those things that you play, and the stadium is not the same without his, you know, his voice.
Batting fifth, the left fielder, number 8, Yogi Berra, number 8. Playing first base, number 23, Don Mattingly, number 23.
Bob Shepard is the best announcer, PA announcer in baseball. When you come in the Yankee Stadium and you hear his voice, you know you're in Yankee Stadium. It's just a part of the tradition and part of the stadium and part of the whole Yankee lore.
The designated hitter, number 44, Reggie Jackson, number 44.
Bob Shepard is, just part of the lore of the stadium. He's part of the dignity of the Yankees with the voice and his presence. Bob Shepard, I'm proud to say, helped me with my Hall of Fame speech. He helped me with my acceptance speech when the Yankees retired my number. His wonderful wife, Mary. I feel very fortunate to consider him a friend of mine. I would just like to say thank you to Bob Shepard for just being Bob Shepard.
Batting eighth, the third baseman, number 9, Greg Nettles, number 9. Batting ninth, the second baseman, number 1, Billy Martin, number 1.
You can always remember back where you were when you heard certain events and Bob's voice was there crystal clear. As a player, going to Yankee Stadium, it wouldn't seem right or it wouldn't be the same without Bob's golden pipes.
And pitching, number 16, Whitey Ford, number 16.
You hear the players say, God, I just love to hear Bob Shepard pronounce my name over the loudspeaker. And we broke in either the same year or 1 year apart, and we're still very good friends.
Certainly Bob Shepard should be in the Hall of Fame. That's probably the highest compliment I can give him, because you think of the New York Yankees and Yankee Stadium and all the people that go there for the first time in their lives and hear that voice, it is probably one of the most memorable experiences you could ever have.
Even after Bob retired, shortstop Derek Jeter used Bob Shepard to introduce him when he came to bat. Now batting, number 2, Derek Jeter, number 2. We are heading to Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, specifically in the town of Eatontown, to go visit Dean Field, designed by the late Whitey Ford while he was in the service. Well, those are the new players. As you can see, they've got the run of the place. There used to be some grandstands behind home plate, but no longer. Dugouts haven't been cleaned in years. Nobody's mowed the grass in a long time. This is hallowed ground, designed by Whitey Ford when he was in the service. Center field is about 450 feet away. Down the line's about 310. People have said that Joe DiMaggio played here as well as Yogi Berra. Right now, it's just a herd of deer, because the grass is pretty good here. Right now, that mound right there used to be the bullpen mound. Don't see that there's a, well, there might be a little bit of a mound there. We used to play here back in the day. This is Dean Field. It's part of Fort Monmouth, New Jersey, which is now closed. It was an unbelievable place in its day. A lot of inventions were designed and invented here for the Army. War. What is it good for? Well, do you know what war is actually? W-A-R. Let's go to our expert again, Mr. Lee Lowenfish, and he'll explain it to us. I have no idea what they're talking about.
War, what is it good for? Well, I did a big book on Branch Rickey. And Branch Rickey was a great innovator, not just with Jackie Robinson race. I mean, he was trying to uncover the mysteries of baseball at the turn of the 20th century. I mean, he had a fellow when he was working with the St. Louis Browns before the St. Louis Cardinals, sitting there behind home plate, making a judgment of bases and outs. And the best players were the ones who moved around the bases and helped others move around the bases while making the fewest outs. But Branch Rickey didn't come up with a war, which to me is often warped, But in fact, when someone asked him, in fact, a fellow scout years later, how much baseball do you know, Mr. Rickey? And he thought for a moment and he said, at most 55%, which is a huge number. But even here, the brain, the Mahatma, the mysterious stranger, he had so many different names because he was always at games trying to evaluate. He didn't have any great number to put on the value of a player. But this has caught on like wildfire in the last 20 years, and not just in baseball, other sports, and in other businesses. And what it's trying to do is, how do you value a player's good to the team if you didn't have that player and you use just an average player, the so-called replacement player. And it changes every year, I've been told, and it looks back through history, and that's how you decide the war of somebody. It's now gotten into the daily press because it's modish and it's something else to write about when you don't really understand it. But to me, those standards about baseball's, a great baseball player is someone who hits over 300 and makes out 7 out of 10 times. But to me, it's how you make those outs that matter, and how long a count, deep a count, you get into. But today, and I remember seeing John Flaherty, the former catcher familiar to a lot of us in the scouting community in New York, he was flummoxed by this, and he was told the first thing you need to know about the new analytics in WAR is that batting average doesn't matter anymore. And what you're seeing is you see regulars in the big leagues under 200, which has never happened in our lifetime. So I don't buy it, but in the spirit of Branch Rickey, you should always be interested in trying to understand our game. But please don't think that your numbers and your new terms are the be and all and answer to what is a mysterious game. And I'm all for trying to understand the mysteries, but don't think you can put it into one little formula.
Rapsodo. When I first heard that word, I thought it was a dinosaur that was just discovered in the deserts of Arizona. But no. It's a piece of equipment that pitching coaches are now using, and let's get an explanation of it by our expert on pitching, Mr. Greg Short of BioPitch.
It's an invaluable training tool that not only gives us such metrics as velocity, spin rate, spin direction, true spin, vertical and horizontal movement in inches, movement in proximity to the plate. You can get a view from the side, from the top. It's incredible. In regards to pitch development and pitch design, this does allow us to go in and perhaps make physical and or just verbal cues to athletes prior to throwing a certain pitch. We can take the data back and we can quantify whether or not that slider, that changeup had tighter spin, moved a little bit later and broke a little bit later in proximity to the target, so forth and so on. And it's just a trial and error thing where you can go back and forth with your athlete, asking them to try new things, throw it on the Rapsodo, pull up the app and the different levels in the app will give you all the information that you need. Like I said, ball, strike, how the ball is coming out of your hand, if you're getting under the ball, you're getting on top of the ball, so forth and so on. So in regards to training, it is an invaluable tool.
Do you collect baseball cards still? I know you probably did as a kid. And whenever you had a nickel or a dime or a quarter, you'd run to the corner store to see what they had in baseball cards. And I'm sure moms all over the world have thrown out more than anyone has actually saved. So let's talk to our expert on baseball cards and memorabilia, Steve Bumble, about baseball cards.
Well, I started out with baseball cards as a kid in the late 60s. I remember having a shoebox full of cards that were 68, 69, 70, 71. And I got caught up with other collectibles, and I decided my baseball cards could go. Sold them at a garage sale, I believe in 71 or 72. Got $2 for the whole shoebox, and I always regretted selling them. Years later, I got back into it and have been collecting ever since. The focus of my collection is basically the 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s to a limited degree. Those are the players that I remember growing up, and the names mean something to me, and I just enjoy. I'm old-fashioned. I enjoy just putting the whole set together. I always try to get the best condition that I can for the card. So if I buy a group, I'm always upgrading and, selling the lesser card to buy another card. And that's what I've been doing for years. Here's a Harmon Killebrew for governor display. He didn't actually run for governor, but he was so popular in Minnesota in 65 that he could have. And so, kind of ties into my button collecting, like Ken Griffey Jr. for president. And that was an advertising campaign by Nike. But there's tons of that kind of stuff, and oddball stuff like this. I'm only telling you for like future. The Brooklyn Bum, who is the symbol of the Dodgers. This little squeaky toy. I found that at a show one time, and I pulled this out because it's somewhat unusual. Joe Pepitone hair dryer. Autographed. He was the first guy to use the blow dryer back in the 60s. And I brought this to a card show to meet him, and he got the biggest kick out of that. He said, I could have made a fortune, if I had endorsed blow dryers, but, everybody gave me a hard time.
Thanks to our producer, Steve Lubetkin. Thanks to our participating experts, Greg Short and Lee Lowenfish. Thanks to our contributor, Ken Canessa. Thanks to all of you who enjoy the game of baseball and keep it alive. And thanks to people like Casey Stengel, Tommy Lasorda, and Bob Shepard for their contributions to baseball. My name is Lee. Thanks for watching The Ball Game.
Casey was baseball mad, had the fever and had it bad, just to root for the but Miss Kate said no. I'll tell you what you can do. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out with the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and cracker jack. I don't care if I never get back. Let me root for the home team. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game.